All right, new episode of the Danny Beal Show. We had a pirate legend, one of my closest friends. Whether we got along in our time at East Carolina or not, he was a super great mentor to me and an awesome person to be around. A pirate legend. He holds the season long appearances record for pitching. But Garrett Saylor is on the episode today. He's now coaching, actually, believe it or not, at me and his alma mater. We went to the same high school, and he's the pitching coach there now, and obviously working at the Coast Lab as well. But one of the great guys and great Pirates that has ever graced the field at Clark and Clare. But it was great catching up with him, getting able to talk to about his upbringing, growing up right around where I'm from, and talking about being able to have a brother as a coach, which got him into coaching at post baseball. But talking about his dirtbag career with Franny, Norby, and Ryder, and talking about it for some funny stories from Lane Hoover over in Greenville. But cool to talk to him. Hope you guys enjoy this one. It's a little over an hour, but really good conversation. It's cool to hear from him. You don't really get to hear from G very often, and being able to hear some stories and his perspective on a lot of the great moments in recent Pirate baseball history was very cool. So hope you guys enjoy it, and let's go. All right, welcome back. New episode of the show. We have a very special guest, honestly, basically a Pirate legend. He was there for as long as anybody could be in college, believe it or not. But really good pitcher, really good person, Garrett Saylor, Pirate from 2019 to 2023. Garrett, what's going on, brother? How are you?
How we doing? Doing good. Doing good.
Still ripping the Pirates with that shirt, huh?
Always. That's right. Hard.
Arc, right? What have you? We haven't talked to you or really heard from you until before we heard actually from you before the regional. But what have you been up to post baseball? And we'll get more into it. But just briefly, like coaching and giving lessons and stuff. What have you been up to at home?
Yeah, post baseball. Been doing lessons over at the Ghost Lab in High Point, North Carolina, coaching a 14U team. Also got a teaching job, teaching PE, health, and weightlifting at our alma mater, Reagan High School, and then the pitching coach for the varsity team there.
Let's go. That's right. And you guys had a good year this past year, and we'll get into it more later in the show. But good to see you're still around the game and landing on your feet, as a lot of people expected that you would. But we're going to talk a little bit about ECU later. But I think you have an intriguing story leading up to ECU too. And like I said, we talked pre-show about how much obviously we grew up together practically, so I know a lot about your kind of trek to getting to where you are now. But for the people that haven't heard your story, I guess tell them about growing up in the Triad, and you're the brother of a high school football coach. Baseball was always kind of your thing. You played pretty much every sport you could, but kind of take us through you growing up and getting to the point where you were a Reagan Raider and then obviously a Pirate.
Yeah. Grew up in a small town called Louisville, North Carolina. Grew up playing 3 sports: football, basketball, baseball, but really fell in love with baseball. Like you said, my brother is the high school football coach at Reagan. So I've been in the coaching world for a very long time because he is quite a bit older than me. He's my half brother, so he's 15 and some change years older than I am. So grow up watching him coach, watching him fulfill his dreams of being a high school coach. So that's ultimately what I wanted to do. But ended up, I went to Calvary for my first 2 years of high school. And then my second 2, I made it to Reagan. And then I started getting recruited by ECU the summer going into my junior year. And that was really the only school that offered me. So it was a quick decision. Like, it was an easy decision to make. And then started that in 2019 and had a 5-year career. COVID gave me another. I guess if I got if I had a medical red shirt, I would have stayed there for 6. I'd have been a super senior. But I don't think my arm would have let me do it.
yeah. Breaking me.
Ended my baseball career in 2023. Stayed in Greenville to finish out grad school. Finished in 2024, and now teaching and coaching.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a cool story just coming from the fact that you grew up with a family member that was a pretty high level coach. Josh, for you guys that don't know, is Garrett's brother. He was my quarterback coach in the 1 year I played high school football before I decided that it was baseball and it was never going to be football. And then he played football with Salem State and has always been around kind of athletics. And it was cool to see Garrett from a young age, at least, be as involved as he was in the community. And I wanted to talk a little bit about when you were growing up and you were around guys that are still playing, like Tommy McCollum and stuff like that. But I also wanted to bring up Jonah, just because I think it's a cool story that, for people that aren't, or I guess weren't really around the Triad, don't really know about. And I think it's cool to see, because, I mean, you still have the sticker on your car all through college, honoring him and stuff like that. But tell us a little bit about that whole story. And I think it's a cool story to tell from your perspective for sure.
Yeah. Jonah Hammett, he played with him from the time I was 8 years old up until time he passed away. But we were 12 years old, playing Little League Baseball together, getting ready to go to Cooperstown, New York, play at the Cooperstown Dreams Park. And he started getting these headaches. And, I mean, nobody really thought about it. It was just a kid having a headache. They ended up taking him to the doctor. The doctors couldn't find anything. I think they went to a couple doctors before. But he was found, he had a brain tumor on his brain, ended up having brain cancer, and battled that for 2 years. So he was diagnosed when he was 12, ended up passing away when he was 14. But the guy lived, breathed baseball. Like, I truly believe that if that did not happen to him, he'd probably be in the major leagues right now.
Yeah.
He was an unbelievable talent. But what was cool about it is he was diagnosed with this terrible disease, but he realized that wasn't his identity, and his identity was in Jesus Christ, which that ultimately brought me closer to Jesus as well. And it was just like, baseball is just a game, and it was just a game to him. It was a hobby, but Jesus was his life, and I thought that was pretty cool to watch. And like, he was one of my best friends, and it was tough, but it made me stronger, and it ultimately got me to where I am today.
Yeah, and I think I bring that up just because it was honestly, like, I was obviously a few years younger than you, and I wasn't as involved because you were on the other side of town playing it over there. But I think it was cool because it kind of, you can almost relate a little bit to Parker, because Parker was a stud coming in when his accident happened. And I think that incident brought him closer to Jesus, which in turn brought, everybody that was around him closer to their faith as well. And I think it was kind of a cool precursor, just because obviously, like you just said, he was a stud. Like, he was really, 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 really good. And seeing you guys from afar, we didn't know each other that well yet, but knowing that, you, Tommy, the Vaughns, all those guys were able to rally around him, and your families too. And even before he passed away, like, he got to meet the Robertsons from Duck Dynasty. There were a lot of cool opportunities that he had to not show off, but be able to show, like, hey, this isn't going to, like, just beat me down. I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, he's going to make something out of it, kind of like Parker's done. And I think it was cool to see that it's happened more than once, and Parker's not the only one that's been able to do this. And even from our hometown, it was cool to see somebody go through something like that and make it a positive.
Yeah, it was really cool. There's a new perspective on life when stuff like that happens, especially to the people that you love, and it makes you realize that life's short and that you can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, no doubt. But like you said, you honored him with the stuff on your car and being able to always, even through high school, you brought him up a few times when we were obviously meeting each other and getting to know each other better in high school. But you started at Calvary. Why did you start at Calvary? What was the private school life like before you made your move to public school with the rest of us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went to public school from kindergarten until 8th grade, and I reclassed. I reclassed in
One of those guys.
Forsyth County. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I am old. But when you reclass, you got to go to a private school, and Calvary was the closest school to me. So ended up going there. And actually, one of my good family friends, Chris Vogler, was the coach there. But the plan was to only go there for a year, so I could reclass, and then I would be at Reagan for 4 years of high school. But I got a girlfriend, and my stupid self decided to stay. And my two best friends were there too, that I grew up since I was 8 years old with. They reclassed with me, so they were already there when I got there. But that was I shouldn't have done it, but
hindsight, of course, obviously, but yeah.
But the coach that was there, Chris Vogler, he left and went to Reagan, and I didn't want to be coached by anybody else. And it was a big ordeal that happened there, so ended up going to Reagan for the last 2 years.
It is the way Winston works is it's like a lot of the baseball stuff is intertwined because Chris's son, Tyler, coached my travel team when I was little, and I knew Chris just from him coming to the games and stuff. And I didn't necessarily know Chris on a super high level until I got to high school. And I was a freshman on JV, and then I was on varsity as a sophomore. But Garrett your first year was when I was a freshman, I think. And Chris and Tyler joined the staff when you left. And I think, like you said, before you even knew you were going to Calvary, you knew that you were going to end up breaking because Josh, his brother, was the football coach, but you ended up staying a year for a girl and a couple buddies. But the fact that you ended up there with Chris made it all much better because you didn't really know anybody besides Josh and Chris at Reagan, right?
I actually knew a lot of just.
I thought you didn't know anybody.
I went to middle school with a lot. Rusty was already there.
Yeah, Rusty, true.
So, but yeah, like my friend group was very small, very tight when I did get to Reagan, because all the people that I did grow up with and went to middle school, elementary school with, they were a year ahead of me now. So I wasn't as close with them anyway. So the only person I really had when I did get to Reagan was Russ.
Yeah. And I think, what was the transition like going from, is people talk about private school versus public school athletics, but was there a big difference that you noticed right away? Like, was it an easy transition with the guys that you knew or the coaching that you knew or even just the competition in general?
It was a big transition because my junior year was terrible.
It wasn't that bad. You were just inconsistent.
I was inconsistent, lost the starting role, ended up going to the bullpen, and I hit well. I think the hitting wasn't the problem. It was pitching to better competition. And I mean, the teams that I was on at Calvary, like we were really good. Like we played Reagan one year, and I think we lost on a walk-off hit. Like we held our own.
Yeah, no, Calvary was great. They had a good team. Yeah, for sure.
But like the pitching was definitely better at Reagan, like pitching to actually guys that will go and play somewhere was definitely different. But I mean, it wasn't as big of a jump as I thought it was going to be.
When during that whole process from switching schools and getting used to public school, were you committed to ECU before you ended up at Reagan, or was it during your time at Reagan where you committed?
No, I committed the summer I got to Reagan. The summer before I got to Reagan. So once I got to Reagan, I was already committed to ECU.
So going through, I guess, like you said, your junior year wasn't spectacular. Was there ever I mean, you can't get super nervous about, not necessarily losing your commitment, but am I really worthy of getting the chance to go play there. And what was the conversations like between the coaching staff and you with your struggles and then being able to get back on track and literally having like the best season ever you could possibly have as a senior?
Yeah. I mean, they just told me to stick with it. They understood that like this was a new school for me, new atmosphere. But they still had confidence in me. And I mean, I was a fresh commitment too. I mean, it was just a year in, so like they're not gonna look at anything like that. And then senior year kind of went off.
Yeah, you were actually like Shohei. It was crazy. Like you hit like 400. You stellar on the mound. Like it was, you were a cheat code.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that because I tried to hit and travel ball for the Dirtbags and that didn't go well at all. I was actually facing a lot better competition, but it was definitely a PO, 100% a PO.
Well, yeah, it led into the next part that I was going to ask you about. Because you did play with the Dirtbags, there's so many freaking Pirates have. Like, I feel like everybody, at least they have like 5 commits that have played with the Dirtbags every single recruiting class. But I mean, it was the same when you were playing. I mean, you got to play with Ryder, you got to play with Franny, you got to play with Norby. What was it like in those summers playing with guys that you knew you were going to play with down the road after you committed? But what was it like playing with such high competition on those teams and playing with guys you knew you were going to be future teammates with?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Like you go to these tournaments and you see the other guys on the roster. You got commits to NC State, LSU, Campbell, guys like that, and then you see our roster and we've got the same guys. Like we batting 1 through 9, 1 through 9's committed. You've got 8 POs that are all committed to schools. So playing with guys like that, playing with Franny, playing with Ryder, Norby, and I'm sure we had some more. I think I played with Bryson a tournament. Some other guys, Colin Watt went to ECU. So like some of these guys that I played with at ECU, I had already played with, so I was familiar with them. But I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, playing at that competition because it's almost like you're already playing college baseball at that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. When you play at that high of a level, and I think it was the same thing with my class, like being able to play with Cam and a bunch of those guys, it made it a lot easier with the transition actually getting to college. Just because you had some familiarity and you were already playing at such a high level against competition and with guys that were actually really, really good too.
Yeah. Want to take a quick break from the show to tell you about the fine folks over at Curtis Construction. Today's episode is brought to you by Curtis Construction. It is proudly celebrating 65 years of excellence. Since 1960, Curtis Construction has been dedicated to servicing commercial roofs with quality, integrity, and unbeatable service. From replacements and restorations to repairs, inspections, and emergency services, they've got you covered, literally. Whether you need a trusted roofing partner or want to learn more about the trade, visit curtiscc.com or give them a call at 252-523-1078. That's curtiscc.com or give them a call at 252-523-1078. Shout out to Kelly Casey and her team for supporting the show. They're huge supporters of ECU baseball as well, and I appreciate you guys, and thank you for sponsoring the show. Go Pirates. This episode is also brought to you by Crush Vodka, the official vodka of the ECU Pirates. Crush Vodka is made right here in downtown Greenville. It is 7 times distilled and twice filtered over coconut shell carbon. Crush Vodka is also gluten-free and sugar-free. You can find bottles of regular vodka, orange, vanilla, cherry, grapefruit, in ABC stores throughout Pitt County, and it is also coming soon to all ABC stores in the state. 100% of the profits from their regular Crush Vodka is donated to Team Boneyard to support ECU Athletics. That is the entire ECU Athletic Department. That's football, baseball, all that good stuff. Thank you to Brett Oliveria for his support of the show. Crush and Sup Dogs has been great for the community, and we appreciate your guys' support of the show and ECU Athletics. Go Pirates. This episode is also brought to you by Randy and Mary Ellen Cole. They are 2 people that bleed purple and gold and love ECU Athletics and supporting their athletes. I truly appreciate you guys supporting the show and for being a big part of what ECU Athletics and ECU Baseball has going forward in terms of NIL, fan support, and, of course, being at every game. If you get a chance to see Mary Ellen and Randy out in the community, be sure to give them a big shout-out for supporting the show and, of course, supporting ECU Athletics. Thank you guys so much.
But you finish out your school. You actually, funny story, you actually got mono in the playoffs our last year, which kind of sucked in terms of timing of it all. But being able to lose all that weight and then hit the ground, I say running, but hit the ground in some form or fashion your freshman summer. What was the going from graduating at Reagan to straight into the hey, here's the workouts, get used to it?
Hell, I mean, I got sick. I think right before playoffs started, senior year, lost I think 25 pounds.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I gained like 5 of it back before I got to school. I came into freshman summer at 180 pounds when originally I was like 195, 200. So I come in bottom of the totem pole, like I'm having to do modified workouts because I can't get through them because I can't breathe. They're afraid I'll rupture my spleen. I'm having Spencer Brickhouse having to pick me up by my waist so I could do 5 push-ups. Like I couldn't do that. Like I couldn't get through 300s. 300s I could do 2, and by 3 I was about to pass out on the ground. And it was tough on my mental state, like tough on all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but that's what led into the fall being so tough for me too.
Yeah, and I think it didn't. I think if you had a better summer, and I think you probably will agree with me on this, I think if you had a better summer in terms of performance, confidence, being able to, all right, I can do this kind of thing instead of just getting buried and having the older guys have to pick you up so much. I feel like you would have had a better fall in terms of performance, pure enjoyability. Like I feel like every freshman has a different story. Like some guys love it. Some guys absolutely hate it. I think you and me both were in like kind of like the hate it camp because we were just always riding the roller coaster of emotionally and physically. But going into that fall after the summer, you go home after the summer and then you get back to campus in the fall. What was it? I mean, were you nervous, scared, excited? What was the feeling going into the fall?
I was terrified. Like I went home that summer, like I was like, I don't know if I can do this. My mom like almost forced me to go back. I was like, all right, like I'll go back. And the fall, like, and you know this, the fall was actually easier than the summer was because now you've got 35 plus guys going through the same stuff that you're going through. So it was a little bit easier. Like it wasn't like it was definitely hard, but I mean, I was nervous going to the field every day, like scared half to death that I'll mess up. Like you're the new guy, it's like you got to prove something.
Yep.
When you don't at all, like you're there for a reason. You don't have to prove anything. But as freshmen, you think you do. So trying to do more, be the weird guy, like when I wasn't even being myself.
I think trying to be someone different is a big like theme you see with freshmen like that don't have success right away. They're going to try to like act differently to like get along with guys or act differently to see if their performance changes or anything. But I think that's a big part of why guys in the fall when they're a freshman are like kind of just get tight and they don't perform well is because they don't know what to do. They're in a completely new position where guys have been there for 3, 4, 5 years or guys have been successful at that level. But they, like you said, it's one of those things you have to realize like you're here for a reason. So you're going to succeed. You just have to trust yourself and trust the people around you. And I think you were able to do that. And I remember, and this is one of the parts that I want to talk about too, because I remember I came on my visit when you were a freshman. And it made it a lot easier on me because obviously we were super close at that time. And it was one of those things where they were playing Carolina in football that weekend. We went to hang out and I met like all the guys. I remember the first guy he introduced me to was Zach Barnes. He's like, this is the funniest guy on the planet. Like, you got to talk to him. We were chatting up. We hung out with like Norby and Logan O'Hoppe was there that weekend. It was like cool to see like, all right, this isn't all the stuff that he says about or other guys say about like how awful it is. Like, it's not all that bad. Like, you're going to get through it. No. It's still enjoyable. And I think that was a big eye opener for me because I knew how hard it was just from your parents talking to my parents or hearing talking to Josh, whatever it may be. Like, this is possible. You can do this.
No, 100%. And it, like that's what I loved. It was like I hated being at the field just because I had so much going on. But I like off the field, like I loved hanging out with my teammates. Like I loved grinding with those guys. But just the struggles that I had on the field is what made it so bad for me.
And going into that, speaking of the Y word.
Y word. We don't say the Y word.
That's why I'm not saying the Y word. For people that don't know, Garrett, you can close your ears. It's called the yips, and that is what Garrett had. Garrett had it pretty bad in the fall and in the early spring, and it was again just another block in the road where it's like he can't like. You had to be thinking at some point. It's like, all right, can I get a break? Like this is insane. Like you can't get anything right.
Like it was the weirdest thing, and like the yips is something like you can't explain. But like it was like I came back from the summer and like I was doing a lot better with my workouts. Like I was more in shape. I was throwing bullpens. My bullpens were awesome. And then it was some random off day that we had. It was like on a Sunday, and I'm throwing a Carter Spivey, and I spike one, and it hits him in the shin. And then another one, and another one, and another one. And I'm like, what is going on? So I had to stop throwing. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So go back the next day, because then we had mandatory practice on that Monday, and it's the same thing. I'm like, I don't know. So throwing a bullpen, couldn't throw a strike. Everything was in the left-handed batter's box. And then it just went all downhill from there because it got in my head. And it was like if I had to explain it, it was learning how to throw a baseball again. And I couldn't do it.
And we had kind of an experience with it prior because Rusty, the guy that Garrett mentioned earlier, when he was a senior, he was our catcher. And he had the same issue where it had to be almost a routine to throw the ball back to the pitcher. He had to walk 3 steps in front of the plate and lob it back. If he did it any other way, it was either spiked or thrown to second base. And it was crazy because when Garrett was going through that stuff, and even in the winter, it was like, what is going on? We have to – it was literally, like you said, you have to relearn how to throw again. It's crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
And like when I was like, it took me a while to get over it. Like I ended up, like I was able to get through it that winter because I went home, worked out with Tyler Smith, Jake Washer, and like I'm throwing with Smitty, and he's like spiking it to him. But like I kept throwing with him, and then I started getting comfortable with him to where I can. From 0 to 90 feet was bad, but once I let one rip, like I was fine. But we're good. I had to get out to like 90 feet quick, but ended up going back in the spring, and it was kind of the same thing. I had to get out to like a certain distance, let one eat, and now I'm fine. But yeah, ended up having like I think seven or 9 appearances freshman year, so got over them.
Yeah, and I think it was important because I feel like every single year, at least when I was there after you left or even before that, where you were made an example of. Every single time a guy's struggling in the fall, you were made an example of because of the success you had after that. I mean, Coach would always bring up, or AK or Dietz would always bring up, like, hey, this guy sucked. Like, he was bad. He was in pitcher hitter every single week, like couldn't throw strikes, couldn't get outs, and then by the end of the season, you're throwing in the closeout game of a regional. And it's that experience and that kind of moment where you're like, hey, it is possible. I know it seems like the world's crashing down around you now, freshman X, Y, Z, whatever it is, but this guy did it, and look where he is now. He's one of the highest appearance leaders in the program history, and it's not for the faint of heart because when that Y word comes around, you don't know what to do.
You can't explain it. There's like you were saying, Rusty had it. Or my senior year in high school, and like I'm out there at 7:30 in the morning trying to play catch with him, and I'm like, this makes 0 sense. Like, and then it happens to you, and you're like, yeah, it still makes 0 sense to why this is even going on. But luckily, I was able to get over them. But I think it all just stems on trying to be somebody that I wasn't, and you see that with every freshman there is. Like it gets to you, and you're trying to be the guy that you're not, and it got to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was certainly guilty of it, and numerous other guys are, where you're trying to fit in and you're trying to be somebody you're not. But being able to get over that hump and trust the guys that you've been around and lean on those older guys especially was big for you, and it was big for me too. And a lot of other guys have those stories to tell too. But you finished that year up, obviously get to pitch at Campbell, which was cool. And did you pitch at Louisville?
Yeah, I did. We were losing. We were losing by like 10 runs. So they threw me out there.
It's an outing.
But it's an outing. It was an outing, yeah.
Same series that Norby got to pitch, but that's neither here nor there. But
I do have a funny story. I think you know this story about me and Norby about like pitch like in the bullpen together. My first outing of my baseball career, like college baseball career, I had lifted that morning, and you know
Oh,
when you
yes,
have
yes,
day
yes.
one.
Okay, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, yeah. You know when you have day one lift, like you're not gonna pitch that day. At least I thought.
That's
So
your
I had day
recovery
one.
lift day, supposedly.
Yeah, I had day one lift that morning, so I was like, I'm not even gonna check the board. Like I'm not on it. So I'm in turfs and a sweatshirt on. Okay, and we're getting beat by Wright State. I think it was in the Keith LeClaire Classic.
It was.
And we're getting beat by Wright State. And I was like, all right, well, like Coach G's already told me that he's thinking about redshirting me. Like, there's no way. So he yells at me. He goes, Saylor, go get hot. I'm like, oh no,
No.
oh no. Luckily, I had my cleats in the bullpen because I did play catch. So I just took them off and put them in the bullpen. So I'm rushing down there, put my cleats on. I take off my sweatshirt. I look down and I'm in a compression shirt. So I yell at Barnes. I'm like, Barnes, go get my jersey. And like I'm pretty sure I cussed because I was panicking. And he
Sure.
gets pissed at me. He ends up going to get my jersey, but I'm getting hot with Norby. Norby's right next to me. And they call down. He's like, whoever gets hot first is going in. I said, Norby, I don't have I don't even have my jersey. You're going in. He ended up going in, and then I went in after him. But panic mode. But yeah, first career outing, I didn't even have my jersey or my cleats on.
And it all ended up good in the end, but that's a hell of a way to go in for the first time.
Oh yeah.
You end up finishing that year, and you go to play with the Copperheads and gain some confidence. I remember talking to you that summer, and it's like baseball's fun again. Like this is actually enjoyable.
Yeah.
You play with a bunch of good guys, and it was cool to kind of get back in the groove of things and actually play well and enjoy it and play consistently too, which was huge because every freshman doesn't play a ton, especially as a pitcher, unless you're Trey or whoever else. But being able to play consistently, stuff like that was good. But the following year was obviously weird because of COVID, nonetheless. But I remember that fall was easier on you emotionally just because you had, like you said, gained some confidence and stuff. But that spring, you were draft eligible because of your age, because you reclassed in high school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You may not admit it. Because I remember coming to watch you a couple times because I wanted to hang out with you, obviously, and spend some time with you whenever I could. But I remember coming to watch you a few games. You finished that year with like an 0.8 ERA. Like I think if that year plays out, I probably never play with you at East Carolina.
Yeah, I mean I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, like I gave up one run that year. Like and it was a bomb. I gave up a bomb. But yeah, I worked my ass off that summer. Because like I knew I had to, because it wasn't like I was trying to prove something to them, but I was trying to prove something to myself that I belonged here. So I worked my tail off that summer, and ended up going in with a ton of confidence, and it showed that spring. Like I was one of the main guys out of the bullpen. I think it was like me, Cam, and Bridge out of the pen every single game. Had I think 8 or 9 appearances in 17 games. So
like nails, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was, and that kind of hurt. Like once that season was over, it hurt because I'd worked so hard to get where I was, and then it's gonna be cut short. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I knew that coming off your freshman year, that was something big that you wanted to obviously prove to yourself. Like you said, it wasn't even about like, oh, I got to show Coach G I can do this. I got to show Coach Rizzo I can do this. Deeds, whoever it may be. Like this is about showing myself that I still got it, kind of thing. And COVID happens, which sucks, but I think being able to use that time, it was an imperative time for everybody, especially college athletes and athletes in general. But what were those next 6 months like? I know briefly spent some time together working out, and you were trying to get me in the right mindset for, hey, you're going to run 300s and you're going to like it, and you're going to do all these workouts. And you were pushing me, and I'm like, dude, it cannot be this hard. Like you're blowing this way out of proportion. You're like, no, dude, get ready.
No, get ready. Yeah, I remember going out to Southwest Elementary at Louisville Titans Field, running 300s, and you're like, what are we doing? I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to. We're doing hill sprints up that big old hill, doing bunny hops and lunges, and you're like, this is this is ridiculous. I was like, dude, I'm just trying to help out. I'm just trying to help you.
I signed
but
up
yeah,
to play baseball, not to do this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it was a weird time because like you had to work out on your own. Like everything was so independent. And I liked it to an extent, but it didn't help me at all because there wasn't anybody there to push me. I had to push myself. And like, I felt like I
If
did
anything,
that.
you had to push me.
Yeah. And like, I did that, but it wasn't as good as it should have been. And I think it showed going into that next year because that next year it was kind of like an up and down year for me. Just from not putting in the work that I should have over that COVID break that we had.
Yeah, and I think it was hard in the fall too, just because. I mean, Burley left, but Gavin comes back. Cam and Bridgie get another year. Tyler gets another year. Like all these guys come back that you weren't expecting to, and it's like, well, there's just a lot. There's a logjam on the staff. That's just the way it is. And luckily, we only had 3 freshman pitchers. It was only me, Tony, and Gross, but it's still just a lot, and it's hard to find your way and make it kind of like outwardly known, like, hey, I'm still the guy I was, even though the season got cut short last year, but. Like you said, you still had a role. It was just sometimes it was really, really good, and sometimes it was iffy. And I think being able to balance that out was tough at times that year.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. It felt like I'd have a good outing, and the next one was bad. Like I think you could go back to my stat line and be like, yep, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. But it was just a roller coaster. But I mean, I needed it. It kind of humbled me a little bit because I thought I had everything figured out from having such a good year my sophomore year.
Yeah, for sure. But the following year was good just because Dietz left, and it's not necessarily a fresh start because we kind of promoted AK from within, and we were all able to kind of like gel and kind of pick things up where Dietz left it off. But you come in, and it's like I remember those preseason games. I remember I can't remember if it was the first one, but I remember we played at like 5:30 in the morning in preseason, and it was the first game of a scrimmage, and it was you versus Wiz, and we had to play that early because of the rain, and there were still scouts that showed up for Carson, which was unreal to think about that you're showing up to a 5:30 a.m. scrimmage. But we're shotgunning bangs in the pitching indoor and watching you guys throw, and more often than not in those scrimmages, you out-pitched Wiz, like without a doubt, and it was you were going to be in the rotation because you had earned it. And then a week before the season starts, Wiz gets popped for whatever he did. I'm not gonna speculate. It's not my bit. It's not my place. But you get put into the Friday night role. And whether you were going to throw on Saturday or Sunday or whatever it may be, it's still oh God, like I'm starting the opening game of the year. What was that kind of situation like, and how did you think you went about handling it?
I think I handled it fine. Like I thought I did. Like I thought I was being normal, and I think deep down I was terrified because I knew it was I was gonna start on Saturday. Like going into it, it was me and Wiz starting every scrimmage, but I was like, this kid's better than I am. Like he's 100% gonna be the Friday night guy, and I'll be Saturday, and that's what I was going into it. And then I think stuff that went down happened with him like a week before. So we got the news on Monday. I think we got the news on a Monday, and we were playing on Friday. They told me that I've got the Friday night role, and I was like, oh God.
Oh yeah.
Oh no. But like I was ready for it. Like
I don't want to make it seem like you weren't confident going into it because you had earned the right and you were pitching great. It's just, oh, I'm Friday, okay.
Yeah, and like I was confident until I got on that mountain Friday night, seeing all those fans there. I'm like, oh God, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And I just again tried to make it bigger than it was, and that didn't that Friday night roll did not last long.
Sure did.
No.
Sure didn't.
No, and even opening day, I didn't think my outing was like I threw 4 innings, gave up 4 runs. But the outing the next week was not great.
Yeah, and like I said, if opening day, you're not expected to go like 7 shut. Like if you go back and look at the previous years, like all of our aces, like the Gavins, the Trays, you that year, like it wasn't like you were like everybody goes 4 or 5. You might sprinkle a couple runs because you're facing another team for the first time. It's not like holy crap, the world's falling. But the following weekend, it's like all right, you had your one like get your feet wet outing in Friday night. Like now we're going on the road to Carolina. Like you better be the guy. And it didn't go to plan, but
no, I think it was 1.2 innings.
Yeah, it was not good. Not good. Not good at all. No, for sure not. But hindsight, being able to use that, it's like, all right, well, maybe I'm not fit for a starter, but moving to the bullpen and turning into Mariano Rivera and breaking the appearances record that year, like we wouldn't have been able to get to where we were if you weren't in the bullpen.
And like because like before that year, I would start in the inner squads, but I was comfortable with the bullpen. And then starting a game, it was just uncomfortable, like trying to do too much. So then got back to the bullpen, and now I felt comfortable because I didn't have time to think about it. Like you know how the bullpen goes. Like he'll call you down there in the middle of the first inning sometimes, and you're like, all right, let's go. And you don't have time to think about anything. You go down there, do a couple arm circles, and get on the mound. So I didn't have time to think about anything, and I think that's just what kind of helped me the most. Is like when you're a starter, you got a little bit more time to think. And I loved my role that I played that year. I think I had 39, 40 appearances that year.
39. So, trust me, I kept track because I was 2 off this year.
That's right. What'd we bet? $100 that you wouldn't do it?
It was something crazy like that. I think it was single season because I remember it was single season because I remember I told you that I was going to pass you in career appearances because you didn't pitch as much as I did when you were a freshman. But I barely missed. I think if we had won that regional, I probably would have gotten at least tied you. But you got me by a couple of games.
That's right.
Want to take another quick break from the show to tell you about our friends over at Young's Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. Young's Physical Therapy and Sports Performance is the only clinic in Greenville that you should be going to for your PT and training needs. They specialize in physical therapy for athletes and the active population. Their PTs are sport-specific and know how to treat any injury. They also have private, semi-private, and team training for workout classes or conditioning. Private, semi-private, and team training. And they are all highly trained professionals who collaborate and utilize a team approach in an elite 9,300 square foot facility. It's 9,300. It's a big shop. Thank you to Kevin and Jennifer Youngs for supporting the show and being the official physical therapy provider for ECU Athletics. They are amazing in the community. Hearing Kevin's testimony on the show a few months ago was tremendous, and it shows that they are good, God-loving people that are here for you guys to work together to make you stronger. Shout out to you guys for supporting the show, and we appreciate you. This episode is also brought to you by Caroline Cook Homes. Caroline is committed to helping you find your dream home, selling your property for the best possible price, and providing top-notch real estate services in Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, Greenville, and Winterville. She is dedicated to providing personalized attention and expert guidance to meet all of your real estate needs. Whether you are a first-time homebuyer or an experienced investor, Caroline is here to help you navigate the complex and ever-changing real estate market. She prides herself on local knowledge, professionalism, and commitment to exceeding your expectations. Explore her website at CarolineCookHomes.com. That's CarolineCookHomes.com to learn more about the services Caroline provides and the properties she has to offer. Contact her today to start your real estate journey at CarolineCookHomes.com. That's CarolineCookHomes.com, or you can reach her at ccookrealtor@yahoo.com. That's ccookrealtor@yahoo.com, or at 252-341-1992. That's 252-341-1992. Thank you, Caroline, for supporting the show.
Being able to, I think it takes a certain mindset to pitch at the bullpen, especially at East Carolina, just because, as people have seen over the years, like if you're good, you're going to pitch, and you're going to pitch a lot. And I think it goes to what you said too with, you don't have time to think. You get down to your throw and you're in the game and you're in the fight and you compete. I think that's what made so many guys over the years good, with Cam and Bridgie being able to be such good competitors. You and CJ, Shank, all these guys that are able to go in there and just put out fires, and it's not a big thing. And you're having, all these appearances over weekends and weekends and weekends, and it piles up. How was it being able to, like you said, you broke the appearances record that year, so you pitched a lot. We went through super regional, but over that year, and this kind of leads into the next question, what happened in the summer, how was it like taking care of your body and going through the strain of having to probably go into every game knowing you're going to be in some form of role pitching on the mound?
No, it was really tough. I'm in the training room every single day. Like, me and Womack got tight that year just because I was in there every single day. But like, I had a good routine to where I would only play catch like once or twice in the week. Like, I would take 2 days off. But like, say there was a weekend where I pitched in all 3 games and we didn't have a midweek until Wednesday, I wouldn't throw a baseball Monday or Tuesday, which probably isn't a good idea.
But it's what you had to do to make you feel fresh.
But yeah, like it's what I had to do. And then I was ready to go by Wednesday. Or if I threw a lot during the weekend and we had a Tuesday midweek, I probably wasn't going to throw that day. So I knew that I could take it easy and gear up for either our second midweek or the weekend. But I mean, you never know. Sometimes I did do that. Throw all 3 games and then throw again on Tuesday, which I was ready for it. But like, there wasn't a time where I didn't tell Coach Shee I wasn't good. Like, I would always go up to him before the game. Hey, I'm good.
And every single person that I've talked to about my experience is stuff that I have gotten from you and Cam and Bridgie of, I mean, Coach, you brought it up a few times over the past, but like being able to go into his office, no matter how many times you threw the night before, the day before, the week before, like, hey, I want to win. Like, and I know that I give us the best chance to win if I'm pitching. So I'm good to go today. And you guys kind of made me embody that, and I passed it along to Norby, because even Norby says the same thing of like, hey, like if I feel remotely close to being good, I'm going to go. And I think it's important, especially to pitch at East Carolina, like we said.
Yeah, it's a mindset that you have to have, and like what helps you with that, because like you're getting thrown into all these different situations, like whether it be you're in the second inning or you go down to the bullpen in the second inning, you don't go in till the ninth. But like, I think I was ready for those situations just from the stuff that we went through in the fall. Like, he throws so much at you that you're like, all right, let's figure it out and go. And then that leads to your compete factor is higher than you thought it would ever be.
I think it's for sure.
I wanted the ball.
Yeah, and I think it's like, if we get put in, like, it sounds cliche because we've heard it for so long, because Cliff's been the coach for so long, but it's the thing where it's like, championships are won in the fall. Norby said it a bunch in the past after he graduated. But it's like, those things are hard and you go through them, but it makes the baseball and the hard moments in baseball easier. Like, it makes it easier to go through, because you just know it's just like, hey, turn your brain off. It doesn't matter how you feel. Just go compete.
100%.
But you get through that year, some would say healthy, after we found out it wasn't actually healthy, but you threw. And the crazy regional where you pitched in Virginia, and there's that clip of you striking the guy out and coming off the mound in the 7th or 8th inning, whenever it was, and pitching in the Texas games and the 20-game win streak, and how special that year was and how close we actually were until the end of it. But the end of that year was weird, I think, for you on a bunch of levels, just because one, Ryder left, and that was your guy with you and you Hoove and Spivey, and you had to get that shot too, because that you threw so much. And I think that was you can correct me I think it was just a weird summer, going from being like, what was it, 7 outs away from Omaha, and then all of a sudden one of your best friends and roommates is gone, and you're on the mend pretty much for the entire fall.
No, that was really tough. And like, because I think I got hurt in the middle of the season, like, because there was always times where it would bother me, but like, I was able to throw through it. But then taking that time off, trying to throw again, and like, I can't throw at all. Then having to get that shot, I got the PRP shot. But Ryder leaving, that was tough, because like, me and Ryder, we were the first 2 commits in our class, we were best friends since we were 16 years old, played dirtbags together. Him leaving was tough, but I had Hoove, because Hoove stayed that summer, and that it made everything a little bit easier having him with me, because he was living in the house then. But no, it was hard. It was hard, especially that being your last year. Thinking, like, I thought I was going to get drafted, but like after the year I had. But I mean, it is what it is. But it was ended up being fine in the long run.
Yeah, and I think Hoove is such an equalizer with that stuff, because if you're ever down, just talk to him and you're good. Like it's just this.
That's right.
The stories and the freshest fruit and just all of the stuff that he did and said, like the way he acted was awesome. And I think that was, like you said, a big thing for you in that summer, being able to be around him. And I don't think after the draft there was ever a question that you weren't going to do your 5th year. And being able to have Spivey and Hoover there for you that year was big, especially in the fall when you weren't able to throw.
Yeah. And that's like when me and Spives got really close too. Because we started living together, and we got that's when we got really close, was like the junior season, and then going into senior year that summer, and that fall that's when we got super close. So it was good having him there too for our last year.
How nervous were you for that banquet speech?
Oh my gosh.
I had to bring it up.
I was terrified.
Oh yeah.
I was so nervous. Like I was standing there, I think it was with Blake. I'm sitting there just shaking.
Oh yeah.
Just shaking. And then when I got up there, I was fine. I think I made a dent in the podium with how tight I was grabbing.
Yeah.
I remember Burley he said something about, dude, your knuckles were so white. I was like, yeah, I was gripping the heck out of that podium. But yeah, I was I've never done anything like that before.
No.
No.
Not to mention the fact, the 4 speakers that year were Hoover, speaks for itself, Spivey, who he's a good public speaker in terms of motivating, but telling stories and stuff, I was like, okay. And then you, with how nervous you were, on top of the fact that Burley was telling stories about how Yadier Molina was seeing him naked in the shower, and it's like, what is happening right now? What is this banquet?
I know. Yeah. Hoover did good though. I was proud.
Surprisingly, yes.
I think, deep down, I think I was more nervous for him than I was me.
Because I think we all knew the way Hoover was.
Yeah, and Hoover was going first. Hoover went first, then it was me, then Spives. And Hoover getting through it eased my mind a little bit too.
Well, thankfully the banquet ended, and you guys did a good job. And the season starts, and you played well. I mean, for a last season, with the way that you and Spivey handled it, from Spivey going back and forth from the bullpen to the rotation, and finally sticking in the bullpen, and Hoover playing well, and it was a good last ride for you guys for one of the great 3 careers that Pirate Nation has ever seen, I guess. But being able to culminate it down the stretch with your last 2 outings, I think needs to be put an emphasis on, just when we're talking, just because when we lose the first game in the conference tournament, and I said this past a couple weeks ago, talking about how we need guys to step up. Not to say that you weren't a notable guy or somebody that we hadn't counted on, but to go 8 innings in a game where we didn't have any pitching left against USF on that Saturday, was that something that you were like, all right, I got all 9 today, or is I'm just going to go until the tank is literally empty?
I was just going until the tank was empty. I'd never pitched. I have never pitched into the 9th in my life. High school, you throw 7 innings. You could throw a 7-inning complete game. But I think the most in my career was 5 innings. But I was just taking it one inning at a time. I felt pretty good. My pitch count was low. They're like, hey, how you feel? I'm good. All right, go back out. So, and I knew it was an important game for it. It was a must win. And I understood that we didn't have any pitching left. And I was like, all right, I got to backpack this. And and like I was confident. I had all pitches working. Later in the game, I even had a rising sinker working. Remember that? I think my body was shot, and I'm throwing rise sinkers, which make zero sense.
Yeah. But it happened.
It was working.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it was that year.
Yeah.
It was very weird anyway, because like I started out in the bullpen, and then get hurt, out for a month, come back, and now I'm like a bullpen guy and a midweek starter.
Yeah.
So like I'm doing all of it.
It was, like you said, after you got hurt, it was very odd because you didn't really make that, like, you only made like 20, 22, 23 appearances. So it wasn't a lot, but you made, like you said, it's like 6 or 7 starts that year. And it was weird because towards the end, you were our best starter, dare I say, besides Trey. Like it was to the point where,
I was I ended up being a starter rather than a reliever the last 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and
which
to follow,
fine. I like it.
You learn to like it.
Never.
You learn to like it.
Yeah, I mean, never. But like my whole career, I'm a reliever, and then once you become a starter and have success, you're like, all right, like this is actually now I get to chill the rest of the week. I'm only focusing on one game, so like I actually kind of liked it.
It made it a lot easier for sure when you get older, just because you only have to focus on one, and like you said, it's easier on your body for sure.
I want to take a quick break from the show again to tell you about the fine folks over at Tiebreakers. Tiebreakers is open every day at 11 a.m. and is the best place to watch your favorite sports while enjoying the best wings in town. They also offer sandwiches, appetizers, the best cold beer, and more. Follow Tiebreakers on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates. Tiebreakers is in Greenville at Bells Fork on Greenville Boulevard and in downtown Winterville on a Railroad Street. Thank you, Bram and Tracy Anderson, for supporting the show. Tiebreakers has always been a spot a lot of the guys when I played would go hang out, eat at. The service was always great. The food was always top-notch, and there were always really good sports on. Shout out to you guys for being supporters of the local and ECU athletics. And, of course, thanks you for supporting the show. Appreciate you guys. This episode is also brought to you by Brandon Manning, my guy B-Man. From his days as a Pitt Community College Bulldog to his years at ECU, Brandon Manning bleeds purple and gold in anything local sports. Born and raised in Pitt County and your local Farm Bureau insurance agent in Winterville, Brandon can set you up with auto, home, life, and health insurance. You can call him at 252-531-1812. That is 252-531-1812. One more time, 252-531-1812. Thank you, Brandon, for supporting the show and being an avid ECU baseball supporter. Your fandom does not go unnoticed, and we are glad that you are a Pirate and are so grateful for everything you've done in the community, helping the kids learn how to play the game the right way, among numerous other things. Shout out to Brandon Manning for supporting the show. You're the man. Thanks, B-Man.
When you were talking about Virginia and the ability to – Trey started on that Friday against Oklahoma, and you followed it up your USF start with that start against Virginia. I think it was important that we had somebody that knew what they were doing, somebody that kind of been around the block a little bit to pitch that game just because of the crowd, the environment. The first time we'd been on the road for a regional since, a while. 2017? No, 2016, I guess. But what was that moment like for you, being kind of knowing in your heart of hearts this is probably like your last time pitching if you went far enough in the game?
Yeah. Like going into it, I was ready. Like I deserved where this start. Like I was ready. It was an amazing atmosphere. Like Virginia was like we played at Vandy, we played at Louisville. That was the best road atmosphere that I ever played in. Like I was ready. Had all my pitches working that day. They were just really, really good. Like that they were really good. But I mean, it was awesome pitching in a game like that.
Yeah, and we needed it too, and being able to not pull it out, but then the next day get another shot at him was still special, and being able to see Root do his thing, and obviously it worked down the road that he was great last year too, and he's did great at Arkansas this year too. But I think it was cool for you, just kind of literally a last two. And I'm sure you told Coach G the next day, you're like, hey, I got a couple of them today, but like that was your last two raw, and it was cool to do it against such a good team in such a big moment and pitch as well as he did.
Yeah, I did tell Coach G I was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah,
I only threw 4 innings, So I was like, all right, if we beat Virginia, I'm good to go for the next start. He was like, all right. So I think if we won that game, I was going to start the next day.
On Monday, yeah. Well, hey,
Yeah.
it's and at that point, like it's the kind of thing where it was like me last year and Cameron Bridgie. It's like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. Like,
But
if my arm gives out, it gives out. Like, I want the ball at all times.
yeah, exactly. And just turn your brain off and let it roll. But when the season ended, it sucked obviously because you knew your college career was over. Being able to be with those guys and put the jersey on again wouldn't happen. But after 2022 and you didn't get drafted, was there ever a thought after your last year that pro ball was an option, or would you want to play pro ball or anything like that?
Going into it, yeah. Like I was like, all right, like I'll take anything. Like I'll sign for a Snickers bar.
Right.
And then I got hurt, and I was developed into like a mentor / coach role, like when I was hurt, like being on the sidelines, and I was like, all right, this is it. If I don't get signed by a major league team, I'm done. And so like that last month of the season, I was like, all right, this is it. Because I knew how old, like I was old. I was like, there's no shot I get picked up. So I'm gonna be done. And I accepted it and went with it.
That's good that you don't, I guess, regret anything afterwards, because I feel a lot of guys too that I've talked to, I'm not going to name any names, but just guys that have stopped playing after they're done, and I feel like they in their heart wish that they had given it a try, whether it's like indie ball, like with what I'm doing, or indie ball, what Spivey did, or playing in some sort of league where they have a chance to keep playing and continue to chase the dream and stuff like that. But I think being at peace with it is also half the battle. I think you did a good job of understanding the time and place and understanding, hey, like I am cool with my career ending here on the field, and I'm cool with it being on this big of a stage in this cool of a moment. This is it for me, and I think it takes a lot of that. It's a lot of self trust to be able to do that and be cool with it and not have any regrets.
And like I did get a call from an indie ball team, so like I could have played, but like I already made up my mind. I was like, I'm done. Like I gave everything that I had. Like one, I truly don't think my arm's gonna let me throw much longer. And two, like I really wanted to get into my coaching career. And like what I do now, I absolutely love. I love working with high schoolers. I love working with my 14U team. And like I have no regrets about anything. Yes, I miss getting ready for games. Do I miss playing? No, because I gave everything I had. But I miss all the outside stuff. The 300s, I'll go and run a 300 again. I might not run 8. No shot I can run 8, but like I'll try, just because I'm with my brothers. That's the kind of stuff that I miss.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys have the same sentiment where it's like, I will go do a 6 a.m. I will go do a 6 a.m. work. I'll do mission week over again. I don't care as long as I'm with the boys. Like I don't care. And it's those things that you miss when you're done, rather than necessarily the playing stuff. But you mentioned post baseball, like your coaching career. You were around a coach when you were younger with your brother. Was that always something that you wanted to do? Like, how has life post baseball been, being able to work with BG at the lab, and then, like you said, be the pitching coach at our alma mater?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I think I was 8 years old when he was the head coach.
Yeah, as well.
Something. I was very young, and like I would
back when he had hair.
Yeah, like I remember going to him with Reagan when he was the wrestling coach there. I don't know why they decided to make him the wrestling coach, but like I loved watching him coach, and I knew from a young age like this is what I wanted to do. And then now that I'm in it, like I couldn't see myself doing anything else. Like I love working with BG. I love working at Reagan where I went to school. Like it's awesome because like working at Reagan, I get to see him every day now. Like and so it's pretty cool working beside him.
And I think it leads into my next question a little bit, because I think it's important being around Coach G and the guys and the coaching staff that's been there forever for 5 years. I think you kind of learn quickly whether you like it or not, the way the culture is and the way that it's like the program itself is run, and being able to work with BG, with Wash, and when Ryder was there before he went to Kentucky, and all of the numerous alumni that he's had over there. I mean, even Austin Beck was doing stuff with BG too, and being able to have the environment that is like the ECU culture and as healthy as it is. How have you been able to kind of, one, implement that in like your normal life, but two, bring that to Reagan, because you're able to coach with the other coaches on the coach staff at Reagan. Used to play college baseball too, besides Coach Nail, of course, but he's the head coach. And it was being able to carry that culture over. How have you been able to do that with the guys and kind of carry it on to the next generation of players?
Yeah. That culture at ECU, it's a bulldog mentality type of thing. Like you either want to compete or you won't make it. And that's kind of what I've instilled into my high school pitchers. It's like, you've got to want it more than the other guy. You've got to do the work outside of the facility to prepare you for that next level. And that's what I've instilled to my guys. It's just like having that bulldog mentality, having that compete factor every day. Like, go about your business the way you would go about your business on the field. And like, I think that's helped my guys a lot. Like, we had a pretty solid year at Reagan. The pitching staff was unbelievable. They did an awesome job. I think we finished with a team ERA like a 1.
Not to brag.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it's not. That's not from me. It's just from them, like, developing that bulldog mentality, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to see kind of the fruition of your own work, putting in the work and knowing what it takes to be able to instill that in those guys, on top of the fact that being able to be in such a successful program. And I mean, you coached some studs this year. Like, Jacob Smith didn't play, but he's a really good player. You got a kid going to Tennessee. What has it been like? And when we had BG on, I asked him this question too, and I was curious to hear his answer. But has it, from when we played in high school and even early college, is it different the way they act and go about things? The guys that are knowing they're going to play college baseball, is it different being around them, or do they kind of go about their business the right way, as opposed to things you see on social media where it's all about what check can I get and what school can I go to, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're working with. Like, you'll definitely see some guys, like, they'll talk the talk but can't walk the walk. I think that's how the saying is. But and then you also see some guys that, like, they do more, like, outside of the facility. Like, they do all the things the right way, and that's what's going to actually help them in college. But like, it's definitely, it's different than when we were in high school. Like, I feel like there's more resources now.
Okay. Like,
when we were in high school, there wasn't as many resources. So it was like you had to do a lot of stuff on your own. And now, like, you've got the Ghost Lab, which, like, a lot of high schoolers go in there and work out. Like, they have the resources. It's just if they want to use them.
Use it or not. Yeah, I was about to say. And I feel like, and one of the questions is going to be, in terms of resources, are you talking about, like, people or, like, facilities or whatever it may be? But I think it all kind of rolls into one of, like, if you're around guys that want to get better, and if you're around people that have been there and done that, like the BGs of the world, or like when we worked out at Sage, like guys that have know what it takes to be a good athlete and just a good, like, human and teammate, I think it's important. And I think the more that you can get around those guys, especially as a high school coach, because the kids, all they see is like, oh, these NIL deals, no other transfer portal, all this stuff. I think it's important to be around guys that do it the right way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, a couple more questions and we'll get you out of here. You've been more than gracious with your time working around your lessons and being the hard-working coach you are, Coach Saylor. But
that's right.
These next couple are like first thing that comes to your mind. It's like, yeah, I'll probably put you on the spot with a couple of these that you have to think about. But first thing that comes to your head, what is your favorite game in an ECU uniform that you've been a part of, whether you played in it or not?
Whether I played in it or not.
Yep.
That I've played in, that I've played in, it's that USF game in the conference championship.
Okay.
that I've been a part of was the regional where we played Charlotte and Hoover had
Yeah, dude.
That's my all-time favorite game. Like that beats my outing in the conference tournament. That beats all of it. That was my favorite game to be a part of.
Dude, that game gets so slept on because I asked so many people and they're like, oh, like Texas, oh, like, Wake. And don't get me wrong, those games were great. They were so fun to be, from my perspective, they're so fun to be a part of. Wake was obviously great because the dude literally debuted in the MLB yesterday and we had Trey. And I get that. It's all well and good. We walked it off awesome. That Charlotte game, being able to play against those guys with how much disdain they had to each other, Gavin having his worst outing of the year, and then Little Lane Hoover literally giving us the lead. And like that was the coolest game. First time we'd had fans all year was the regional too because of COVID.
Under lights, it was yeah. No, that was awesome. I think that's the loudest I've ever heard Clark LeClaire.
And then the 24-hour bender that started the following night after we beat Maryland, but that's neither here nor there.
No, we don't.
The next one is, and I find it hard, like I don't know how to like ask this. What is like your favorite Pirate memory? Like what it doesn't have to be a game. It does like a workout or like it's like saw a cool moment in like Mission Week or like something that you were like when people ask you, hey, you played at East Carolina, it's like, yeah, you got to hear this story.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't even be Hoover rocketing the PS4 controller off the wall. It doesn't matter. But like your favorite memory of being there.
I think it was getting ready for the football games, like tailgating for the football games, being around your boys, that, and then going to the games, going downtown, like doing the stuff outside of the facility. Those were my best memories. Like I can't pinpoint one, but those were my best memories at VCU. Of course, Hoover chucking the remote.
Yeah, tell that story because I brought it up. Tell that story.
Him and Ryder, like this, Hoover wasn't living at the house. It was like me, Ryder, Norby, and Gavin that were living at the house at the time. And Hoover would come over all the time and play 2K with us. And him and Ryder are playing with each other. And if you don't know Hoover is the most competitive person I've ever met in my whole life. And he is winning the entire game, like talking so much junk to Ryder. And Ryder like slowly starts making his way back. And he puts up a shot that ties it, and it was out of nowhere. And ends up, like, they're down to like the final seconds. Ryder, it was like a red layup. So like if you play 2K, like green's good, right?
Green is
this
good.
Was like highly contested, and it somehow goes in, and it's seconds left on the clock. And Hoover he's using one controller, but he has another one set up just in case he needed to throw it because he was using one that wasn't his. So he put this one that he was using down, got the other one, and threw it across the room, and it hit the doorway and exploded. And he storms out. I think that's the funniest. I think that's the funniest Hoover story I have, and it just explains him to a T.
And the hole in the wall, it makes it that much better just because of the fact that it actually exploded into pieces.
Yeah, no, I think they might have painted over it now, but for the last 2 years that we were there was a paint stain on that door frame.
I was about to say, Hoover left his mark at Brook Road. That thing's never coming off. It's going to be there, and it's going to have a lasting memory.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. One last one. Who was? I guess you could ask, or I guess you could ask it two ways. Who was the toughest hitter you ever faced, whether it's in scrimmages or against somebody else, and who's the easiest? Like somebody that you were really hard to get out, and then somebody that was like, this is the easiest at bat of my life.
Landon Howard was probably the easiest.
Ricochet shot at Landon Howard. Jeez.
Yeah. He was probably the easiest. Sorry, Landon. And he knows that. He knows that too. Hardest out. It's either Hoover or Norby.
Yeah, You caught Norby at a
Like,
tough time too.
Yeah, that was when he was getting good too. Like I couldn't get him out. Hoover was very hard just because he was so low to the ground. And his hand-eye coordination is probably the best I've ever seen.
You can't strike that guy
out. There was a couple guys from the guy from Memphis.
Yeah,
he had my number.
The three guys at Memphis, actually.
Well, one guy hit, I think, 2 or 3 off that season. So he was. I couldn't get him out.
Cool, yeah. Quick funny story about that, and then we'll let you go just because I feel like this is funny and needs to be told. So it was conference tournament 2021, and there were some guys that got left back because of COVID, and we couldn't travel a ton that year, and it was weird. And the travel rules that entire year was weird, especially with COVID testing. Even didn't have the vaccine, whatever. So Cam Claunch, who was pretty much my best friend going into that year, had to stay back because he was like a close contact or something like that. And Skylar Brooks was also back, whether it was through injury or the same thing. And Garrett gave up back-to-back home runs in the conference tournament against Memphis. It was the first game of that tournament we lost. We didn't make it far in that tournament that year. So Garrett gives up back-to-back home runs, and Cam and Skylar are at home in Greenville watching the game. And they've been hanging out for a little bit, and they're watching the game. And Cam and Skylar are talking, and Skylar in the middle of the inning, Skylar looks at Cam and he's like, "Why do they keep showing the replay of this damn home run? Like it didn't even go that far. It landed in the bullpen." They look up at the score, and Cam goes, "That's the third one in a row. That's not the replay. That's the third straight home run they've hit in that game." And come to find out, Skylar had a couple drinks, but it was very funny because it's like. No, it wasn't just one. It was 3 in a row.
No, it was 3. But I if I'm not wrong, I think you did that your last year at ECU.
Yeah, no, I did.
Back. Okay. All right.
In a way bigger moment, too. Way bigger moment. Yeah. No, those guys were way better than the guys that you gave them up to, but I certainly did it still.
Yeah, you're right. Because that was still when everybody in the league made it to the conference tournament. I think Memphis was like the 8th seed.
Yeah. Mine was the long lost third baseman, former Pirate, and then I think 2 guys that got drafted. But hey, we don't have to talk about it. But. Garrett, dude, thank you for giving us an hour plus of your time. It was good to catch up and chat with you, and thanks for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed it.
Of course. Yeah. Now I'm about to go to. I'm going to Hoover's house. We're going to St. Augustine, Florida, for his bachelor trip. So that's where I'm headed tomorrow.
Nice. How long are you guys there for?
Thursday to Sunday. So we'll come back on Sunday.
Jeez. That's going to be one hell of a bachelor trip.
We were supposed to go to. If you know Hoover, you'll understand this. But we were supposed to go to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. Best classy as it gets.
Yeah. But no, he got a good. I think he's got family at St. Augustine. Ended up we're getting a house that we don't have to pay for. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out Landy and Hoover. They're getting married later this year. And Garrett's obviously a groomsman for him because they've been close friends for a while. But G, thanks for coming on. Travel safe, and we'll hear from you soon.
All right, appreciate it. See you later, man.
Yep. See ya. All right, that was Garrett Saylor. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Like I said, it was a really, really fun conversation, hearing some funny stories about our time together and hearing his perspective on a lot of things. I think it was cool to hear about, how he got over the yips and all that stuff, and how it was special to see him been able to get through some tough times and able to overcome and become one of the great pitchers in Pirate history. And it was cool to hear his perspective on a lot of different things, especially post baseball, how he's been able to stay around the game and impact some kids' lives around the Triad. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was a cool interview. Like I said, we don't get to hear from G very often, but hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.